Okay, welcome everybody. Hopefully I've got the audio figured out this time around. Welcome to another Wednesday evening, afternoon CloudFormation session. If you remember, actually, sorry, I'm going to open this. If you remember, the last time we were here, it was actually a couple weeks ago now. We've been working on VPC Lattice. I've been working on a real life project for a customer, and just thought it would make a good set of streams, because I know I spent a fair amount of my time kind of just trying to figure out terms, new terms, terminology, stuff like concepts, stuff like that. And I thought if I could share some of that, why not, right? Sorry, I'm a little disorganized here. Getting everything moved around. So last week, you know what? I might go to the iPad for this. A little easier. And we'll just review what we did last week before we start. Okay, so last week we created, change the color of this guy. Last week we created two VPCs. And actually, let's do it like this. We have what I'm calling the consumer. Okay, and in this case, the consumer is going to be an application running in a VPC. So we've got over here, oops, this is our VPC. And let's just say, for the sake of the demo, you've got an application of some sort running on an EC2 instance. This could be Lambda function. It could be anything you wanted, really, in this VPC. And then what we did was, that's all that existed over here. And then we have the provider. So the way I'm thinking about this, at least as I learn about it, is that the provider is where the service resides. So on this side, we created a VPC. And I guess the easiest way to maybe show this is like this. Inside this VPC, we created a sort of a hello world function. I don't think we changed anything from the default, so it just said hello from Lambda or whatever that is, right? So we did that. And then inside this VPC, we created, I'm just gonna say SVC, right? So we created a service network, and in that service network, actually I don't like that. Let's do it like this instead. We're going to say SVCN, okay? So for the service network. And then what we did was we defined this Lambda function here as the service, you know, you can have one or more services in a service network. So we've got a single service network, and then we've got a single service in it. So we associated our Lambda function with that service network. And then we wrapped up by creating an EC2 instance here. And we tried to test, if you remember, if you're here, we tried to go from this EC2 instance. Actually, I guess the right way to show it would be like this, right? From this EC2 instance through the service network to the Lambda function, right? We were expecting a response back, the hello from Lambda or whatever it was. And at the end of the day, we didn't get a 200 response. We got a 502 response, which I don't know if we looked it up at the end of the stream, but 502 isn't good, right? We want a 200. So I've redeployed everything. Actually, that's half true. I deployed everything that you see in the provider diagram. And on the consumer side, I haven't done that. Okay, so I haven't set the VPC up. So maybe what we'll do is, ultimately, I want to troubleshoot why from this EC2 instance we can't get to our hello world function, right? Because that should work. So we solve that. And then that means like an EC2 instance deployed within the VPC that's associated with the service network will be able to run a hello world Lambda function, right? Great. Then what we want to do is we want to connect through. So these are also in different accounts. So let's say this is account number 1, and this is account number 2. Okay. So in account number 1, our consumer account, what I want to do is deploy the VPC and then share this service network through RAM, right? The Resource Access Manager, I think it's called. Share this service network with our consumer account. So now we have a service network here as well, right? And then, lots of and thens, we're going to deploy an interface endpoint, a special type of interface endpoint like that. So then in theory, I said that again, right? What should happen, if we've got this all set up correctly, is this EC2 instance, now that this VPC is associated to that service network, should be able to do that, right? That's the ultimate goal, is that we can have the service network shared across a couple accounts. And in those accounts, we have different applications that need to access this. So that's our goal for today. Let's see how far we make it. Okay. All right. So thinking about this list, goal is to solve the provider problem, the 502 issue we had last week, and then connect everything together. But having said that, as I look at the diagram, I mentioned as I was starting to draw this that I hadn't deployed the VPC on the consumer side. I think we should do that first. Otherwise, if we're successful tonight and get this stuff done, we're going to get to that point and have to sit and watch an environment come to life. So let me get into that account. That is our dev account. And I should have the stack there already. So if I flip back over to here, right? If you recall, we do everything through GitLab. So I just ran a new pipeline before the stream today and got this running, right? So if I go to CloudFormation, yeah, here's our consumer VPC. So let's just deploy this. You can see I was testing some stuff. So let's deploy this. And this VPC, actually, let me go back over here. We'll go back to this diagram for a second. The provider VPC, there's one other slight difference. This provider VPC is connected to the internet. The VPC in the consumer account is not. I don't really know why I did that. I just decided to kind of show some different configurations and how they would all work together. Okay, so that's that. And our consumer VPC is now up and running. So that's good. We've got that deployed. And actually, why don't we take this one step further? And we're going to deploy into that VPC. We'll just do this through the management console for now. So let's call this our consumer instance. And we'll leave it as a Linux. We'll make it an ARM processor. We'll use a micro instead of a nano. And then, you know, if you've ever watched these before, you know what I'm going to do here. Private. We should have a secure. Ooh, we don't even have a security group here. We might have to change this, but let's just don't do this in real life. But we'll add it to the default group for now. It won't do what we want, but that's okay. We'll fix it later. I just want to get the EC2 instance running. And then we're going to associate it with, again, if you've watched the stream, you've seen this before, our generic EC2 instance profile. The reason we use this is it allows us to use SSM. So I don't have to put this on the internet and then SSH to it. I can use the fleet manager or systems manager to do that. So let me just make sure. Did I do everything right here? VPC, subnet, security group. We'll have to fix that. That's fine. Yeah, that should be good. Hopefully that gets going. Okay, so that's that part. And then let me get logged into, I may have logged myself out of the provider account. Okay, so there's the provider account. Let's go over here. And last week we made ourselves, let me make sure I'm in the right branch. I am, okay. Last week we made ourselves a little to-do list. Whoops. So let's see what we've got to do here. In the consumer account, create a service network endpoint. We're not there yet. We'll talk about the security groups, so obviously we can't do that. On the provider side, we have our function, which we're going to test. We've created our service network, our service, our target groups. We did this last week. We'll do a quick review of these, just to remember everything. And we were sort of, let's do that, right? We were work in progress on the test, and we'll have to work on that. And these were some other things that we talked about. Can we resolve the service network from outside of the environment? I'll show you that. I think we covered this in the last session, but now I don't remember. And obviously from the outside, can we communicate with the service? I'll do a quick refresher on that. And oh yeah, look at this. Modify the provider VPC. It shouldn't have internet access through an IGW. So we talked about that. Oh, and this is my little cheat sheet. Okay, so let's get back to here. And we'll have a very quick look at what I already stood up. So we've got a really basic VPC. If we look at the resources that are deployed here, it's a pretty standard VPC. VPC spread across multiple availability zones in a single region, connected to the internet. It's using a couple NAT gateways. So in theory, if we deployed resources that we wanted to have access to the internet, but somebody out on the internet can't get direct access to them, then we've got NAT gateways, pretty standard stuff. In here, we deployed 2 security groups, one to wrap around our little test EC2 instance, that's EC2SG, and then one to wrap around our Lambda function. If you recall, we didn't deploy our Lambda function through CloudFormation. I used the management console to do that, but I made sure to deploy it into the VPC, and I'll tell you why in a second. And then we created a CloudWatch log group, actually 2, one for the service, one for the service network, and then this is our actual service definition. And if you recall, it's made up of a service network. Think of that as a logical container for your services. A single service network can contain multiple services. So we've got that defined here. And then what we've done is, if you've ever used a load balancer before, you'll understand this concept is we've created a listener with a target group. And that is how, if everything works correctly, our request will come to the service network, and that's how it'll know how to route the request to the proper destination, the target, in this case, our Lambda function. So that's everything we built last week. And then when I stood it back up today, I created our hello world Lambda function again. So if we go here, actually, there's nothing even to see here. What I want to do is go back to EC2. And I also did this manually. Here's our Lattice test server. Before we do this, let's just refresh our memory on one other thing. Remember last week we talked about this, that Lattice is like it's a zero trust solution, right? And one of the easiest ways to make sure that nothing can talk to your service is like this. If we sort of mimic at a very high level the solution that we're building right now, right? I've got a VPC. It's going to be hard to remember later. I've got a VPC with a service network associated to it, and I've got another VPC. Okay? And this is sort of what we have right now, right? I guess if we wanted more completeness, there's the EC2, and there's our Lambda function. Okay. the first thing you have to remember about this is, in order to access this service network and the services within it, you have to have the service network associated to a VPC. This is sort of your what I'll call first line of defense, right? Remember last week we talked about this idea of layers of defense, a very common thing that you'll hear people talk about in AWS training is layers of defense. Is this a true layer of defense? I would say not, but you think about it this way. If we go back to our VPC, what did I do? That again. Okay, if we go back to our VPC and this VPC that's not associated with the service network, you deploy an EC2 instance there, and then you decide that you want to do this. It just won't work. Okay, and the reason it won't work is because there's no association between the VPC, like where you're in, to use the sort of terms that I've been using, where the consumer of that service resides. So this VPC, there's no association here. So we're just going to get an access denied. Okay, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So what we want to do is we want to make sure, so in our scenario, forget all of this. Oops, sorry, like this. Forget all of this up here. Okay, we can all go away. Really what we have is this. So what we want to do, and this is where we had that problem last week, is we want this EC2 instance to make an HTTP request via this and have that Lambda function invoked. That's our goal. Okay, so let's get back now to the console and see if we can get this to work. So here's our test instance. We're going to use SSM to get on it. Okay, and we have internet access. So everything's perfect, right? What we need to do now is we're not going to talk directly to this function. Instead, we're going to talk to the function through the service and the service network that we've created. And if we go to the VPC console under Lattice services, we'll only have a single one. If we highlight that, when you create a Lattice service, you're going to get an automatically, there we go, tongue-tied, an automatically generated DNS name. Okay, so we're going to copy this. We're going to go back to Systems Manager, and we're going to ping it. Okay. And you'll notice it resolves, but it has a non-routable IP address. And this is sort of that idea of that first line of defense. In our fictitious VPC that we talked about, I could still resolve this host name, but I have no route to the unroutable IP address 169, right? From our fictitious VPC. In this particular instance, the service network, the VPC Lattice service network, takes care of that routing for us. So now, in theory, if we've done everything correctly, we should just be able to run a curl command to that custom dynamically generated domain name, right, for the service. And hey, look at that. It worked. I don't know why it worked when last week it didn't, but that's good news. What happened here is via the service network, we invoked that Lambda function, and there is the incredible response back from our Lambda function, right? It's just the default Lambda function. So this works. Let me show you something else. Oh, hold on. Sorry, folks. Still getting used to... Well, yeah, I'm in the right spot. I want to show you something else. One of the really important parts of this solution and zero trust in general is I want to be able to provide as much insight into the requests, whether they're successful requests or something else, right? To the services or service networks that we create. And if you recall from last week, if we go here and you look at our service network, we have monitoring at the service network layer. It's writing to a CloudWatch log group. And then if we go one layer deeper into the service itself and we go monitoring, we have monitoring at the service as well. If we click on these, It's going to take us over to CloudWatch. And there's our request. Okay. And you can see here all of the information that you get in the requests from the clients or the consumers. So it's showing you the ARN of the target group. In this case, we are coming from a VPC, so you get the ARN of the VPC, the source IP address, information about the service ARN, the source VPC, when it started, even the methods. So later on, we were talking about auth policies and things like that. We could create very granular auth policies that said, I don't know, post requests are allowed from VPC A, but not from VPC B, those types of things. So you have this granular control over how requests are handled. So you've got lots of information in here. The other thing that's important to remember is, like, we don't have authorization built in here. So essentially this is an anonymous request. See this resolved user. There's no principal information down here or anything, because it doesn't know who we are. We haven't authenticated against AWS. So that's important. So that's at the service level. If we go one layer higher and go here, it's essentially the same information. To be honest, I'm not sure what the difference is between these two layers, like as far as the log data that they write, but you've got multiple log sources that could help you in the event of troubleshooting or trying to understand how to write your auth policies and stuff like that. You could use this log information to kind of write those rules. Okay. So that works. That's good news. I think then what we should do, thinking about sort of how we started this today, our goal was to connect the consumer VPC to this the same service network, so that we could talk to that Lambda function. So let's go back to here and just make sure we've got these up to date. So tested the service. We did actually. So this is good now. We're done that. And we'll do this sharing in a minute, but we'll finish the consumer configuration first. Oh, let's try this from the outside. I think we did this last week, but I don't recall now. So can we resolve the service network from the outside? Let me just try this from my laptop. Let me copy that DNS name that we ended up with. Give me a second to find it again. Okay, so I'm on my laptop here. Let's make this a little bigger and just say ping. And this is just the DNS name again, okay, that was created for our service. We can resolve it, right? 169. Perfect. So if I do a curl command and we go like this, right? Same path. This worked from the EC2 instance in our VPC, and it just won't connect, right? Because we can resolve it, but as I mentioned, that 169 address is non-routable. So that's those couple items off of our list. Sorry, I got my mouse pad wet. Let's try this again. So from the can we resolve it, the service network from the outside? Yes, we can. And are we able to communicate with the service? No, we can't. Right? And just to make a note here, we cannot communicate resolvable. That's totally wrong, I think. Resolvable. Routing is not. Well, let's say it like this. Although the domain is resolvable, we cannot route to the IP address, right? And it's one of those 169s. So I'll just make a note of that so we've got it for later. Okay, so that's that. What we're going to do now is we're going to shift up here. We're going to create these services to connect everything together. So if we go back over here and we jump back to our consumer account, which is over here. So the demo is the provider and dev is the consumer. I've got our test instance. In theory, look, this is why you don't start this and then just walk away from it. What did I do wrong? What I was expecting there is to have, oh, I know what it is. You know what? We stumbled across this last week too, and I didn't fix it. We're gonna do the quick fix. Remember that I said when we started this and we kind of did our diagram review that the consumer VPC is not connected to the internet, right? So we've got a VPC. So let's show it like this. We've got a VPC with an EC2 instance inside of it. And there's no outbound connectivity. There's no internet gateway, right? We haven't connected this to anywhere else. If you recall, the vast majority of AWS services are what I call non-VPC aware, right? I can't deploy an S3 bucket in a VPC, right? You just can't do that. SSM is an example of that. SSM is the service that will allow us to remotely connect to that EC2 instance without using SSH. If I were just to draw another, let's actually move this all up a bit. Okay, so I put that more in the middle. If I was to draw one more layer to this, this is our account. Okay. What's happening here is because SSM is outside of our VPC, when there's a little piece of software, an agent, right, that's running on this guy, SSM relies on an agent. That agent, in our current setup, it has no route from the EC2 instance in the VPC. It has no way to do this, right? Has no route to do that. So that won't work. And this is what we did last week, or tried to do last week, and fixed it, and we fixed it manually. So we're going to do the same thing today. We're going to fix it manually so we don't get bogged down just writing a CloudFormation template for this. I'll make a note and we'll fix it permanently. So let's go back over here. We've added to our to-do list. Oh, look at this. I didn't read the whole to-do list. I did write it down. So we need an interface endpoint in the systems manager. We're going to go and we're going to do this part manually for now. If we go to the VPC console, right? And we go to endpoints. We have no endpoints by default. We're going to create a new one. And we're going to call it SSM endpoint. Let's do endpoint 0. And you can see the lists of services down here that support interface endpoints. And the thing that you'll notice with some services like SSM is there's actually multiple endpoints, because SSM is the way I like to think about it, a sort of a collection of services. So we've got multiple endpoints here that point to different components of SSM. We're going to create a couple. We're going to go SSM. We're going to put that into our Lattice VPC. We're going to make sure DNS names are turned on, and we're going to deploy this into the 2 private subnets that we have. Okay, 1 in each AZ. And we will, oh, look at this. Okay, so I think we're skipping by this when we should be writing some code for this instead. Let's fix that. Let's write this as CloudFormation, and then it's done. Let's see. We've got our consumer. This Isn't it amazing? Oh, I've got a filter on here. How do I get rid of this filter? Wait, there, maybe? Ooh, I like the sidebar. Hold on, let's do it like this. GitLab, Labs, CI, come on. Okay, it's not gonna open it. Give me a sec. I can't remember how to get the side tree back. Bear with me a sec. Okay, there we go. Magic. I just was looking at this. This is what I was getting confused because I'd accidentally put that filter on and I don't recall how to take the filter off. So we've got 2 include files, one for our consumer environment, one for our provider, and then we created these various modules last week. So we've got a security group for the provider. What is this? EC2, Lattice. I think what we should do, I know we've called this security group provider. Actually, let's do this first. Endpoints, interface, YAML. Okay. And we'll just copy. What do we need? 20 lines here to get us started. We'll grab those 20 lines, plunk them here, and we're going to say deploy VPC interface endpoints. And we're going to get rid of this. We're just going to say, we're not going to sort of differentiate between production and non-production. And then we're going to say resources, and we've got a bunch of endpoints. So we're going to say SSM endpoint 0. And I have no memory of what this is. Let me just grab this from the documentation. Just squeeze this over here so I can see it in one spot. Okay. Excuse me. So this is okay. Sorry about that. Let's try this again. We have an AWS EC2 VPC endpoint. So there are DNS options. I think this is just on or off, but we're just going to put it to do there so we can come back to it. IP address type, we will specify this as, I'm going to check the formatting. I think it might be like that. IPv4, let's check. Oh, not even close. Like that. Okay. VPC endpoints do support policy documents, so that extra layer again of protection. For what we're doing today, we're not going to use a policy document. Private DNS enabled is a boolean, so we're going to say true. And because this is a interface endpoint, that's what we're going to create. We need to associate it with a security group, at least one. So we're just going to use to do for now. You have to tell it what is the service name. Okay, so we'll fill that blank in. I got to look at the console for that. And when you deploy an interface, a VPC interface endpoint, you're deploying an elastic network interface. So we have to tell it where those are or where we want them to go. So we need our subnets. Okay, and we're going to continue to follow AWS best practice and deploy this across multiple availability zones. So we'll do that. We need to define the type of endpoint we're creating. And I don't know about the case of this. Is it all caps? What is it? It isn't. Okay, it's just interface. Okay, so we're making interface endpoint. That changed the case on me there. And then we need the VPC ID, so we'll do that. And we're gonna continue tagging everything as we go. And we've got a standard set of tags that we're using right here. So we'll grab this and plunk it on the end. Okay, I'm gonna change this name though. We're going to use a sub for this, but for now, I'm just going to say to do. So let's fill in some of these blanks. The first thing is DNS options. Let me just see what's possible for that. DNS record type. You know what? DNS records created for the endpoint, not required. Private DNS. I think we're just going to take this off. No sense in adding something if we don't need it. So there's that. We haven't created our security groups yet, so we'll figure out what those are. Now, to get the service name, you need to know the service identifier. And we started this already, so we can just go back up here. See this? This is the structure of the service name. I'm going to copy that. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to... That isn't what I wanted to do, but it works. So we're going to go back here, and we're going to make this a little more flexible, right? So we're going to wrap this all in a sub, and this way, if we ever deploy this somewhere else, we should be able to use the same template, right? So we're going to say AWS region. So it'll just pick up the current region. So there's that. We're going to use my favorite intrinsic function, the import value function. And if you've watched these streams, you know that I never remember what this is. So let's go look for it. It's in one of these templates already. There we go. So we're just going to yank this line. We're going to go back over here, and I'm going to paste it. Okay. And we're just going to get rid of all this. Do this, and in our case, this is going to come from our VPC stack. So what we're doing here is we're using an export value from our previous stack to go in here, and I dropped a curly brace, didn't I? I'm making it worse instead of better. Let's try this again. I've forgotten how to use my keyboard. All right, so there's that. And we're going to need two of these, but we won't copy it yet. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to our VPC stack here. And I can't remember the outputs. So see, we've got this structure of an output. And we're just going to take this. And same sort of thing, I'll just use this to remind myself. So let's paste it here. So what I need is that the end at the bit at the end, private subnet 0. And now we'll copy this because we want to put that into two subnets. So that's that. And we need to pull this value in. It means oh, it's already here. See this stack parameter, VPC stack. So that's fine. We can get the information we need here. I'm going to double check this, but I think I don't like this in hindsight. I used to do it just like this. So this pulls in the ID of our VPC. And that'll be here in the exports as well. Right there, yeah. So this is just the VPC ID. So that's good. Okay, we got that. We're missing our security group IDs and a name. So let's structure this name. And I'm going to base it off of what we've already done. I think we generated in our service stuff. See these right here? We're going to do the same thing. We're going to take this. And I'm just going to paste it like that. Okay, so application, environment, and we're just going to call this SSM0 endpoint. We're going to create a couple of these. I'm not going to do it, though, until we get the security group done. So I'm just trying to figure out how we want to do the security group. We have two options. We could create multiple templates, like have a production security group template and a development security group template, and then deploy those independently, or we can kind of try to string this together. Let's see. So see, right now I went SG provider. And here's the thing. If we're thinking about the consumer VPC, we need an EC2 security group. We don't need a Lattice Lambda security group. We don't have a Lambda function over there. So I could write a condition, but I'm wondering how best to do this. Okay, so let's try this. I don't know if this will work. What do we want to call this? We'll call this the account type. Okay, so this is our map. And what we're going to do is we're going to say provider. How do I do this? I forget the structure. Hold on. Okay, so this is our logical name. Then we have our key. So this is, in this case, it's our let's do it like this. We're going to call this, yeah, that's account type, right? That's our map. And then we've got the provider account, which has some sort of value here. And then we have the consumer account. I don't know what that is. Consumer. There we go. Okay. And we have some sort of value here. What I'm thinking we could do is we could then say something like this, conditions. And then we'll go is consumer. And we're going to do equals. And we have to think of this. What I'm thinking is we could do this. I forget this equals thing. Hold on. All right, so what we have is we have conditions, we have our logical condition ID, so is consumer, and then some sort of intrinsic function. So we're going to say if, the thing that I'm not sure is in an equal statement like this, can I refer to a map? Because, let's see, you can use the following intrinsic functions to define conditions. Hey. Thanks for the sub there, Evan. I appreciate it. So we can use the following intrinsic functions: and, equals, for each, if, not, or. Okay, so that's fine. We're using an equals. The question is, in the equals, can we use a find in map? Let's have a look for that. Equals. Let's check this one. Okay, so find in map. Is there anything we can't use a find in map with? Yeah, okay. So here's what this is. I think this is kind of what we want. Let me show you what I'm looking at. I think I'm overthinking this. So here's the find in map function. And they actually give you an example which applies to what I think we're trying to do. If we go down here, see this? Here's our map, and there's our logical ID and then our identifiers, right? The different regions. And then we've got down here, they're using a find in map. as part of the property. So what it's doing is it's looking in the region map, grabbing the current region, and then deploying whatever or associating whatever, if you're in US East 1, it would use this machine image ID. Okay. Here's an example of using it for, here's our mappings. You can use the following functions in a find in map. Maybe I want to look at an if statement. Somewhere in here there's an if. Condition functions. This. Right? If. I think this is what we want. Maybe? I don't know. Sample 2. Sample 4. Just show me. It's true. You've got not functions. A condition such as equals evaluates to true or false. You can use the following functions in an if function. Find and map. Okay, so that was a lot of reading. But I think what we want to do, we just need to decide on, maybe I'm making this harder than it needs to be. Maybe I don't even need the map, because what we could do is do something like, I need a condition example that we already have. Do we have another one somewhere? Nope, just here. Okay. So we're going to say equals. Find in map. Our map name. I'm going to use the full function in here. So we're going to go fn find in map. Our map name is account type, right? And then we're going to do ref AWS account ID. And then really it doesn't matter. This is our second level key. We're just going to say name. Okay, so we got to switch this up. Comma true. I'm going to check that something's not right there. So account type, and then we need our different account numbers. Let me grab them. So the dev account, our dev account is with what again? If I use my little cheat sheet, the dev account is our consumer. So that's this. Okay. And then we just need, if that was our, I already forget, dev account, then we need the demo account. And that goes here. Right, so what we're doing is we're saying, look in the account type map for the account ID, and then get the name. Let me just check that. That name thing doesn't seem right. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. So this should be Let's make these lower cases like this. Okay. So that's that. And then it still doesn't like this. Am I missing a bracket somewhere? Yeah. So I've got this. That closes that one. Closes that one. I've still messed this guy up, haven't I, somewhere? Let's find the equals. So value 1, value 2. So we've got equals value 1 is our find in map, and then value 2. Okay. No, this doesn't, I'm doing something wrong here. Don't know what. Okay, so equals. Maybe this is fine. It just doesn't, see how it's changing the color here? I've messed up these brackets or something. Let's do this just for fun. If we just did the simplest equals function ever, it's literally this. Yes, no, right? So I've just messed this part up. So if I say fn find and map, our map type, or our map name is account type. That closes that, comma, this should be, I'm just going to commit this and see what it does. Maybe it'll give us an error that makes sense. Could I shorten this and use find in map? Okay, let's try it. Something isn't right here. We'll know very quickly what's going on. Oh, I got kicked out of GitLab. One sec. All right, so what happened to our pipeline? Yeah, it failed. Keys must be oh, yeah, duh. We go back over here. The keys of our maps are not strings. They need to be, so we can fix that. Go like this. Oops, that was backwards. Okay, let's try that. I don't know if that's our only error. Well, at least past the validation phase this time. Consumer VPC. So right now it's running over here, right? Because we called it provider originally. So we'll just let that run. Okay, everything ran. If we go back here and go to CloudFormation and find, oh, we're on the consumer side here. Wrong place, right? We got to go here. Go back to CloudFormation. Here's our SG. Change sets. There's nothing. Oh, you know what? Of course there isn't anything. Jeez. We've only done half of the work at this point. So what we did is set our condition. So what we have to do now is when we think about the consumer side, we're thinking about those interface endpoints. So what we need is just a really simple security group. We'll call it interface endpoint SG. Okay. That's fine. It doesn't even need any rules in it, and then we'll just export here. So I'm going to short this up. We'll just call it IE. Okay, and I'm this wrong. I just want to match that up. All right, so now let's try it again. All right, there we go. So we're going to add this interface endpoint security group. I noticed a slight change today. A while back, Amazon added this timeline view. So you get like if you've ever looked at like the developer console in your favorite browser, sort of that same view. And it looks like it's now the default. So yeah, this is great. I don't know. I tend to like the original one. So I'm finding today, as I'm going through my different accounts, I'm having to switch that. I don't know. Okay, so that's that. Good. And we did an export, right? Yeah, right here. So we're going to need this information. So it's just this. If we go back to our templates now and go here, we can now fill this in. And it'll look just like this. Okay, so we're going to say SG stack. And then what did I type? SG IE. Not a great name in hindsight, but it'll do the trick. And that means up here we have to add a stack reference as well. Okay. And then if we go to our consumer deployment, we'll go here. And we're going to say endpoints. We don't need any of these, but we do need VPC stack is going to be actually this, right? So I'll actually just paste that, change its name. Now, this is what I'm not sure what will happen here. Because this stack is actually from the provider. So it's just called, see this, provider SG. Provider. No. Sorry, that's not what I wanted. I was looking at the stage name. I wanted this. So this is SG stack. This might not work the way I'm thinking, because I'll show you. See in here, the order is going to be important here. So maybe we could do this and try it. The reason I switched them around is because I'm referring to a stack, and I need that other stack to run first. I think I've done this before, where if I've got those stages reversed, it won't work. I don't know if I'm misremembering that or not, but we'll do that. And then we were working in the consumer here, right? Okay, so that means we can get rid of this, this, and this, and just make it VPC stack equals VPC stack. Did we leave any to-dos in here? We didn't. Okay, so let's deploy this. Oh boy. Let's try this again. There we go. Actually, this is the one we're waiting on, right? Consumer endpoint. So that means if we go back here, wrong account, I think. Here we go. So here we've got our change set. Oh, you know what I did? I copied and pasted that, didn't I? How many times I do this? So if we go... I've got the wrong path here. So networking, endpoints, interface. Again, a great example of why change sets are so important. Let's see if it works this time. There we go. That's more like it, right? It's too good to be true. So, oh, yeah. Okay, we started adding the application tag, and I didn't pass a value to that. Oh, that's weird. The VPC doesn't have it, but this does. We will fix this at some point, but we're trying to deploy interface endpoint. What did it complain about? Okay, so there's the interface endpoint. Unresolved dependencies in the resources block of the template. See this? It says application. I didn't see application there. Let's just search. Oh boy, long day. Application. Oh yes, of course. That's where we did it, right? We passed that in to create the name. Oh, how did we do this in our other templates? What did we create last week? If we look at Lattice again, oh yeah, we copied it from here, didn't we? Yeah, look at. Right, so we just have to pass this in, and then here We'll add it up. We'll add it to the beginning of this line. Application equals application. Let's try that again. Let's see if this makes a difference. I think that's probably what the issue was. All right, that's good. In theory, we should just get a new change set that isn't filled with an entirely new VPC since we've got the path hopefully right. Oh, did it fail again? It did. What did I miss? Application must have values. What am I doing here? Okay, so let's go through this slowly. Parameter overrides. Application equals application. Now, if I recall, we set that here. So there is application, right? So that's pulling that in. And then if we go to interface, application, application type is string. Application. What am I missing? Okay, well let's do this. Let's just compare it. I think the only other place we're using this is in Lattice right now. Let's compare it to the Lattice config. What did I do different? I literally have parameter overrides, application equals application. There's application, right? This is in the Lattice template. There's the parameter value, and then we pass it in the same way. Oh, look at... No, I don't need it there. Yeah, application. These are the kind of things that make me wonder sometimes. What am I missing? This is going to be something really stupid. Parameter overrides. I'm looking for a spelling mistake at this point. Application equals application. And that application value comes from the main CI script. Application. Did I misread the error message? Let's check it. Nope. Create change set parameters. Application must have values. I'm just looking at the actual deploy command, a line above it. Tags. Parameter overrides. Okay, something weird's going on. So here's the parameter overrides. Did I not commit it or something? Like, what? It's definitely user error. I'm pretty sure I pushed that. Yep. Okay. Pipelines. Actually, let's do this. Let's go repo. I'm just working off this. The stream or the branch just deploys. If I go includes, okay, I am losing my mind. Oh, I'm in the main branch. Okay, sorry, go here. Consumer endpoint. It is not there. Okay, let's do this. When all else fails, add a comment. I have it. I see it in there. Am I in the right branch? I'm getting confused on branches. No, I'm working on the new stream branch. So if I just do this, this is a comment. Okay. Let's see. Hey, Darko, thanks for stopping by, man. I appreciate that. Lots of CloudFormation. Let's see if that worked. I don't know what I did wrong, but as long as it works at this point. So I dumped that in here. Okay, there we go. Application. I don't know. I don't know what I did. We'll pull that comment back out once we see this deploy properly. So that means, did our pipeline finish this time? It did. Okay. So now, typical. Hold on. I forget what account that was. Well, I've got a 50-50 shot. These have probably all timed out at this point. Yep, there we go. There's our endpoint. There we go. Okay, let's see if we manage to get this deployed. See, that defaults to the timeline view now. Eesh. No export named. Probably messed this up. Let's find our security groups. Oh, I'm an idiot. Remember we did all that work about the security groups and the conditions? Those security groups only exist in the provider account right now, not in the consumer account. So obviously there's no export for that. I'm not going to change the names of these files for now, but I'm just going to copy this little chunk of code because it's the same template. I just want to deploy it in two places. So plunk that in here, and we're going to call this consumer SG. Get rid of our comment now. This will be consumer variables. This is fine. This is fine. These are actually, I hard coded some of these a little too much. This is going to be consumer. Oops. Right? So those should be our stack. So there's our stack name, and then it refers to this stack name. So that's okay. Like I said, the file name's not great right now, but this will work. And then here, CF Wednesday stack name. Okay, let's try this again. I have to clean up my stack that's in rollback. Otherwise, the pipeline will fail. So let's let that clean up. And while we're waiting, let's see if that does the trick. Is it left channel only? Ah, okay. Let me see if I can quickly fix that. Thanks for the heads up. I was messing with the audio because last week I had some challenges with it. I knew it was too good to be true to work in one shot. Give me a sec. So I read somewhere that what you could do is, I was using originally the audio mixer instead of sources, and there must be a filter or something on the source that I have to set up. See if I can find it. Yeah. Technology, right? Am I right? Yeah, I don't even see anywhere to change that. Well, I guess I'll only be in one ear tonight. I'll have to fiddle around with it a little more. Thanks for letting me know so I can fix it next time. All right, so where was I? Oh yeah, we were waiting for the pipeline, right? In theory. Did it run? Yeah, there's our SG reference. So now we should have security groups here. I'm going to leave this for the time being. The condition, we set the condition, and then, you know what, as I think about it now, I wasn't expecting to see this, but I'm trying to rush through this, I think, because we didn't actually then go into the different resource definitions and say, we'll deploy this if it's the consumer account, deploy this if it's the provider account. But this should, assuming that it works, will get us over this hump so we can get this EC2 instance up and running, rather than getting bogged down in a bunch of non-lattice stuff. Okay, so that's good, which means now I should have the required output that was missing the last time, this guy. See that though? SG. Let me have one look quickly. That's in the interface guy here, right? Yeah, I got one. See this SG here? This is going to be a... No. Oh, man. My brain is fried today. Let's go have a quick look. What did I export? Yeah, see, it's just IEID. Bad name. So I have to change that. Balance to the left. Yeah. It's definitely user error somewhere. I know when I have the audio settings in the audio mixer, there's a little option you click somewhere that you move it from mono to stereo. But when I put it as a source, I don't see that value anymore. I just have the device and that's it. Oh, wait, you know what? Hold on. Let's try one thing. Is it any different now? Testing 1, 2, 3. It's really low now, isn't it? I was wondering if it was maybe something on the amp. Testing 1, 2, 3. Let's try that. Still only left. Yeah. All right. Well, I won't dick around with it too much. Okay. Let's deploy this guy. Wait. We have to make sure that this... Yes, okay, I know what I'm doing. That's the new one. This hopefully has the right import value in it now. Okay, I tell you what, you know what? I'll take this offline. I don't want to make you watch me remember these names. So instead, to get to the Lattice stuff, let's just deploy a couple interface endpoints through the console for the time being. And I'll put that on my list. So SSM endpoint 0, because like I said before, we're going to need a couple of these. So SSM, and we'll fill this in. This is normally really easy to do, but just no luck today. Okay. We're not going to worry about... Oh, we need the security group, which deployed. That's this guy. And we're not going to worry about a policy doc. So we'll create that. And we need another SSM1 endpoint. So let's say endpoint 1. I think we need, if I recall, we need messages as well. And just put that in the right place. It can everybody can use the same security group, and we'll create that endpoint. So we should have 2 come to life here at some point. And I'll just show you the security group because it's really easy. All you need on the security group associated to the interface endpoint is 443. So you don't need any inbound rules. Oh, wait. Yeah, no, you just need outbound because it only ever communicates on 443. So if you just allow the outbound connection, then the response is allowed. So it'll work without much fiddling around. So that should be fine. And then let's just make sure that endpoint showed up. There we go. It's still pending, but actually I'm going to let that come to life before I restart our EC2 instance. I just want to make sure the endpoints are available. Okay, there we go. We've got this EC2 instance that we tried to get to earlier, so we're just going to say start. Okay. Give that a second. While I'm doing that, I'm going to multitask and say OBS. Oh, still not working. What am I missing? I think I'm wrong on these guys. I think that's security group. I think I need to make a change on this security group. And we're going to put in here, we could get fancy with this, but since it's just temporary, I don't remember what the CIDR range for our test VPC is. This 10100. All right, save. Now the agent may or may not connect. I'm just going to stop it and start it. I found sometimes if it can't connect right away, it'll keep trying, but it won't come to life. So we'll just stop it quickly. See if the third time's a charm. Okay. Try going again. There we go. Yeah, so I was getting mixed up on those. So the only thing you need to do on an interface endpoint is every service that communicates through an interface endpoint only needs a single port inbound. That's HTTPS, right? So TCP 443. And then I just left the outbound. So this is fine. This is good. Slow progress. So now we're on this machine. Remember, this machine is in our provider VPC that isn't connected to anything at this point. Now, if I go back over, I think we got logged out of our demo account. Let me go back over to that one and get that crazy URL for our provider. So if we go VPC Lattice service, and we get this domain name, okay, and we go back over here, just like before, from the EC2 instance in a VPC that's not associated with our service, I can resolve it. But if I run this curl command, right, unlike what we got before, we can't route to those 169 addresses. So the way we solve this is we share our service network. So right now, it's not working, okay? What we need to do is we need to create a share. And we do that. I'm gonna put it all in the Lattice definition. Just do I want to do that? It's maybe too much. Let's separate this out a bit. We're gonna say I'm gonna call this management gov ram YAML. Okay, so this is gonna be our Resource Access Manager setup. Look at, I guess I had another comment earlier. So we're just going to grab this whole parameters section. So what, 28 lines? Oops. Okay. There we go. Okay, I don't think I'm going to need anything in here for stack parameters, so we're just going to get rid of those. We can add them back if we need to. And then we need our RAM definition. So let me just have a look at this one. And this is important. Let me actually show you this, because I remember when I started doing this, this really messed me up, and it was definitely user error. Some of the documentation is a little it feels a little circular in places, especially when you're learning. So we've talked about this a couple times. You have a VPC and you have your service network, right? And these two things are independent of each other. So if we just move this VPC, give ourselves a little more space here to draw this. Okay. So like we've demonstrated a couple times, right now, any resources in that VPC will immediately just get effectively an access denied, right? There's no route to that service network. And you can imagine where you find yourself in a situation, maybe you've got multiple VPCs. Well, let's create 3 VPCs. Okay, and you've got a couple service networks, maybe. Okay, something like that. What you need to do is you need to associate these things together. Now, the trick, and when I first read the documentation, I totally misunderstood it. I kind of thought I could have a single service network associated with multiple VPCs. And while that would make it really easy, you can't actually do that. So what we've done in our example is we have done this association. Okay, and we've tested that already in our EC2 instance, and that VPC can talk to the service, right? We got the little hello from Lambda response. Now we're working on that second VPC in the middle. We have no route to it. I can't just create another association. If I try to do that, I'll get an error. It says something like, I can't remember the exact wording, but essentially it says that the service network is already associated with a VPC, go away, okay? So in order to do that, I'm just going to change the color. We essentially share this service network, right, with the account that has that VPC, which then allows us to finish that association. Okay, so that's kind of what we're doing here. The other thing to keep in mind, and this also kind of messed with me a little bit, is I can do this, right? I could have a single VPC associated with multiple service networks, but I can't have a single service network associated with multiple VPCs. You can have one service association, and then you have to use different mechanisms. And the way I'm going to do it is the way I set it up for this customer, because we're going across multiple accounts. So I use the Resource Access Manager. Okay. So let's create this. Go back over here, and we're going to just call this, I don't know, we'll call it demo. Yeah, I'll just call it demo lattice share. And it is a RAM resource share. Okay. And then we just have to define this. We're going to say there's really not a lot that's required for this. I am going to add this just to try to create some good habits, right? Allow external principals. And this is just a Boolean statement, so we're going to say false. Right? What this basically means is I've got an organization with multiple AWS accounts in it. I will be able to share, in this case, this Lattice service with anything with any other account within the same organization. But if I try to share it to maybe an account that you have, it wouldn't work, right? Because it's not allowed to be shared outside of the org. So that's kind of handy. Let's copy again the names that we dynamically generated over here. It's up here. Okay. Actually, we're gonna leave that as service network, and we'll just preface it with RAM. What's that? And then we need to decide on who we want to share this with. And this is one or more options. So for us, I don't know what's going on with my autocomplete here. It's doing weird things. So principals. And you can share with an entire organization, a specific account ID. For us today, I'm going to share this with our consumer account, right? Which I've already written down over here for easy access because I can't remember. Our consumer account is our dev account. And let me just grab the dev account ID again. I think I've copied and pasted it a couple times, but I never remember it. So this guy. Now, does it need a specific structure for this? Principals. Nope. Account ID, the ARN of an organization, the ARN of an OU, or a role or a user. So we're just going to plunk this in and we're going to call this dev. No, sorry, consumer, the other way around. Right? We're deploying this in the provider account and we want to share it with our consumer account. So there's that. And then we need to define the actual resources that we want to share. So resource ARNs, and this obviously can be more than one thing. Now, when we set our lattice up, we don't have any outputs. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some outputs here because I can get the ARN of the service network and then we can just share that. So let me just remember what that is. Oh, okay, it's just a ref. So we're going to do this. We're going to say, what did we call the service network? We called it demo. This right here. Okay. So I'm just going to do the same thing I always do. Demo, lattice, service network. And this is the ARN. The value for this is just the ref of the same thing. Okay, minus the ARN. And then we just need the export name. And I always do this the exact same way. So we'll do AWS stack name, and we're just going to call this service network ARN. Some of these export names are getting long, but that's okay. So that's going to give us the ARN value that we can then substitute into RAM. So that means we are going to need a stack parameter here. So I'll just call this our lattice stack. And we'll pass that in through CI. And then the command that I never remember again, import value. Just yank anything off of there. Paste it. Okay. Let's go with this. Right. And this is going to be lattice stack. And I think we said service network ARN. I'm going to check. Service network ARN. Okay. Whoops. Right? So we're saying don't share this resource with anything outside of our organization. We've given it a name. We've said we want to share it with a specific AWS account, so our dev account, which is our consumer account, and then we've provided the ARN of the resource that we actually want to share. Is there anything else that we need? It supports tags, so let's continue building our tagging best practice or our tagging habits. Let's just find tags here, and we're going to grab these. Just use them again, right? Okay. I'm going to pull the name tag out of there for now. We'll see what it... Sometimes it'll pick these up, I find, and some services it won't. So we'll see what it does. All right, so that's that. Now what we need is... We are working back in the provider account. We'll grab this whole thing. What is it, 17 lines? And we're going to call this provider RAM, and we'll just follow this same structure. Maybe, if I could type RAM. Pull in the values. We need lattice stack, which is actually just this right here, isn't it? So we'll yank this line. Change it to lattice stack. And then down here, definitely don't need that. All right, that should pull that in, and this needs to be, I forget what we called it already, mg, mt, gov. Wow. Right, okay, just hit a bunch of keys. RAM. Let's see how lucky I get here. That's just a bad cut and paste somewhere. That is lattice provider. What did we do here? I literally added the output. What's the error message again? It's looking for some horrible name. Okay, hold on. Just copy that. Let's search for it. Oof. What the heck did I do there? Okay, I'm just gonna do this. We really messed that up. This doesn't make any sense at all. These applications, I wonder if it's been like that since we started the other week and I just didn't notice it. No, something is not right here at all. I've lost a bunch of work. Hold on. Because this lattice, so networking lattice, this should have, there's our service network. There's our log. There's the service, our log group, our social. Okay, so this looks right. There's our listener. Okay, because I'm like, I've lost all of this stuff. This looks good. And there's, I don't know. I feel like today my head's a little scrambled. There's lattice stack. We're pulling that in. Was I in the wrong file? There's service network ARN. I don't know what I did wrong there. Is there anything even to commit at this point? There isn't. Okay, so for the second time today, this is just a comment to try to get ourselves reoriented here on what the heck I just did. Actually, this is really just a CI change, isn't it? Testing pipeline. Let's see what it does this time around. Failed immediately again. All right. So networking lattice provider, it still has this weird, okay. Lattice, networking lattice provider. Let's go find that. Make sure I'm in the right place. Network lattice provider. Let's search for that value again. Service network. Log. There's the service. There's their service log group. Association. Target group. Okay, I'm going to check something. So we definitely have to fix this. But all of the other stuff right now just says application equals environment, which is wrong. But let's just do that. And then let's check what the current template is. So if I go to CloudFormation here, and we go to, oh, sorry, I need to be in the other account, right? The demo account here, and we go back to CloudFormation. And we look at the Lattice service. That's this guy. If we look at the template, environment, I guess it's always been like that. See that? So this is all mucked up. What I've done is I've used it here and then down here, probably cut and pasted. So I've been looking at something that's been wrong for a week. Okay, let's just push this for now and see if that at least fixes it. And I'm just going to add something here. Just so I don't forget. Let's see if this does it. Made it a little further. Got it through the validate. Oh, this is, yeah, okay. This is a failed deployment here. This is our original endpoint deployment that is mucked up somewhere. So let's run this pipeline again. Okay, and let's see if that'll get us through this. I'll just leave that template in a sort of review in progress or whatever they call it, and I'll fix whatever I did wrong there. So what should happen is this should have an update. There we go. But we have to be careful here, because did we change an output somewhere? There were so many weird things going on in that template. I'm not 100% sure now what we did. Okay, so let's do this. Sometimes I'll do this when if you're just making like output changes, your change set will exist. You might see a new change set, but it won't actually show you any changes if you're just modifying the output. So I'm just going to go through these and see if there's any other change sets. There are not. So let's go here. It's weird again that it just says nothing. Okay, let's execute that. That must be an output that we're adding. So let's just get that done. There's the RAM. Okay, so see that? It just took a while. So this is our new template. If we go change sets, we should have RAM here. Before I do this, though, if we check this guy and look at the outputs, there's our new service network ARN that we need for the RAM. Okay. If we go back here, go here. Oh, man. Can only be shared within your organization. This error may occur if you've not enabled sharing with your organization or that onboarding. Oh, you know what it might be? This might actually just be, I'm not going to show you this because I'm in the management account. Give me a second. Might be that I just don't have RAM enabled. Bear with me a sec. Yeah, I don't. Okay, so I'm just going to enable this. I think this is what the problem is. Okay, so that's good. Let's go back here. It's this guy. So let's delete this stack. Just have to wait for this operation to complete. Otherwise, if I run the deploy again, it'll fail. Because it'll say that the stack is sort of in the middle of doing some other operation. Come on now. Sometimes I wonder why this happens. Like the create failed. It was rolling back. So you'd think it would delete quicker. I don't know why this happens sometimes. There we go. Okay, so finally gone. Let's run. I'm not even going to run the full pipeline again. I'm just going to run this guy and see if we can get this fixed. All right, so we'll go here, change set. All right, give it another whirl. Immediately, the resource you're attempting to share can only be shared within your organization. This error may also occur if you're not enabled sharing within your organization or that onboarding process is still in progress. I think I finished that, but I wonder if it takes a minute for it to come to life. Could we work around this for the time being by modifying our stack, I wonder? Remember how I did here? Sorry, here. Let's get rid of our comments. See this allow external principals? I'm going to pull that out for the time being and see if it just allows us to work around it. It really does take a long time to delete one of those failed stacks. Yeah. Pipeline ran faster than the delete. Okay, there we go. Let's run this pipeline again. Okay. Refresh this. Here we go. You know, I want to try something. Let's go RAM. That's weird, eh? Well, let's try it again. So let's go CloudFormation, RAM, change sets. Ooh, didn't fail right away. So one of two things happened there. By the time I removed the allow external principles false, either RAM finished enabling itself throughout my organization, or we just worked around it. But either way, we have what we wanted. So if we go back to our consumer account, okay? Now, if we go VPC, actually, sorry, if we go RAM, what we'll have is this guy. So this is the service network from our provider account that's now been shared with us. Okay. Still in the process of being set up, but it works. Okay. So that's that. What we need to do now is if we flip back to the diagram really quickly, go back a couple here, right here, right? So we've done this, right? We've made that share. So the service network shows here now. What I now need to do is deploy interface endpoints, a special type of interface endpoint called a service network endpoint, and associate this with this. Okay. So that's our next step here. We're getting close. So if I go back to Firefox, that's still marked as pending. I don't think I have to accept it or anything. Oh, maybe I do. Look at that. There we go. It says one invitation. I guess I should just read, right? Okay, there we go. Active. RTFM moment. So that's that. I'm not sure if this will show. So if we go to VPC, I can't remember. If we go to service networks, there we go. This is the service network that's been shared with us. Okay, so since we have the Resource Access Manager set up, we're sharing that resource, and now it shows in our VPC console. Okay, you can see the owner ID of this service is the account that ends in, what is that, 3551, which is not us. Okay. Even though this is associated, right, or this is in our account, I still don't have that association, right? And if I tried to go to VPC association, I'll show you this. If I say add, it's going to show me my new VPC. I'm going to click that. You can associate a security group with a service network association. We're not going to do that right now. If I say save, it worked. Oh, yeah. Okay. I think it's in the process of airing. That's really weird. I didn't expect that to happen at all. What I was expecting to see there is an error come up and say, this has already been associated with a VPC. We're going to leave that because I'm going to show you the way that I've been doing this with the service endpoints. Okay. So let's go back to our editor. Okay, so that's all good. And then if we go to endpoints now, oh, this is the one that gave us that issue, didn't it? Well, we're going to add our new endpoint. Okay. So we're going to call this We're going to call it demo lattice service endpoint. All right. Now this is almost identical to any other endpoint. So we're just going to copy these lines and we're going to paste it down here. Oh, I forgot the type definition. Type is AWS EC2 VPC endpoint. Okay. Oops, I got this up here too. All right. So that's that. Some of these properties have to change. So let me just find this again. All right, so we don't need DNS options. We'll leave IP, the IP, what is this? Address type as v4. We're not going to worry about a policy document. Remember, this is just that extra layer of security we can add in. We're going to leave private DNS. Let me just see here. Yeah, this property is only supported for an interface endpoint. In our case, we're not using an interface endpoint this time. We're using a special type of interface endpoint called a service network interface endpoint. We will leave our security group in place. Now, the service name. My recollection is for this, we don't need the service name. So we're going to do that. Okay, we do need our subnet IDs. And this right here, we need to service network ARN. Okay, we're going to put that placeholder there again. Tags, and then we need to change the VPC endpoint type. This is going to be service network. And then we'll go here and say, we're just going to call this whoops. We're going to call this service network endpoint. Okay? Now we need to figure out how to get this ARN in here. Because remember, this is like the ARN exists in our account because it was shared with us. So I wonder if we can construct this some way so we don't have to hard code it. Let's go back. Here. This worked. I don't understand why that worked. I'm going to delete this because I want to show you this other way. It's very weird. Maybe because it's shared? I don't know. I'm confusing myself as I look at that because I tried to do that before and it wouldn't work. So we're going to clean that up. Now what we need is, see this, we need the ARN of our service network, and this is not great, is it? Let's build this manually the first time just to see how this works. So if we go VPC, and we go down to endpoints again, okay, these are the other two that we created manually. So we're going to say create, and we'll just call this test endpoint. All right. See this over here, service networks. We're going to click that. Here's our service network definition. So this is exactly what we have there. We can enable a DNS name, and then this just plunks in. So this is exactly the same. So we need, the only thing we're missing at this point is the service network value. And what did it ask for again? Here, let me show you what I'm looking at. Right, so see this guy right here, right? The Amazon resource name of the service network. In our case, required, right? I'm just wondering how we could structure this in a way that makes sense. Well, there's really no easy way to construct this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn some of this into variables. So what we're going to do, we'll use this as a placeholder. So we're just going to plunk that. Oops. Well, that'll do. We're going to do this. And so we're going to say not F13. We're going to say sub. Okay, we'll wrap that whole thing in a sub. And we're going to pull in these values dynamically. I bet you there's probably a better way to do this, but this is the way we're going to do it. Right? So there's that. And then here, I'm going to make this a parameter, and we'll just call this SN. No, we'll call it service network ID. Okay? And we're going to just create that up here. So we'll say service network ID is a string. Right? Now I have this. We messed something up with this one. I don't even remember what the error was now. But for the time being, I'm going to delete that whole thing. So we've just got this. Again, I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to try it. And then we have to add this back here. Because I think we pulled out the endpoint stuff, didn't we? I don't remember now. There's end. Oh, no, we left it. Okay. So we've got this. It's got everything it needs, I think. Let's try to deploy it and see what it does. Service net. Oh, yeah. Jeez. I just added it and then didn't populate it. Let's try this again. So in here, we need to pass in service network ID. And we'll just grab whatever this value is. Let me just save this so I don't lose it. Let me just grab the value from here. If we go back over here, we just need that. And we'll just paste that here. Okay, and then we got to go here and say service. Okay, let's try that. Okay, at least it didn't error this time. If we go back to CloudFormation, here's our endpoints. We should just have the single endpoint now. Execute. Oh, man. No export named. CF, WED, Lattice, provider, SG, EI, ID. That's because somehow we've pulled in this name wrong, right? We're in the consumer account, not in the provider account. Let's try this again. See here. Oh, look what I did right here. I must have, yeah. This should be consumer SG. So let's go here. Clean this stack up. And then we'll redeploy our pipeline. Okay. Okay, so change sets. Now let's have a look at the input. There's our service network ID, our stack. See, this says consumer in it now. Let's see if we make it a little further this time. That must have been the problem with the SSM one too then. If it, huh. Tags. Name is not permitted. Oh. It sets the name automatically, I think. So if we go here, we added the name tag here, which is not allowed. Well, I better delete that stack first. Okay, so that thought I pushed that. Give me a second. Yes, I didn't. Okay, that should get us going. There we go. Oh man, who thought this would be the security group IDs? Who thought this would be the hardest part? I thought we were in the home stretch here. Let's delete this. Back to our template again. And get rid of this. Could have sworn. Let me look in the documentation. Security groups. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. I missed that. It says security groups are supported only for interface endpoints. There we go. Oh, man. Now it's not going to delete. Oh, man. One of those nights. One of those nights. Still deleting. I don't know if anybody's still there, but I just noticed something as I was waiting for this to delete. If somebody is still listening, is the audio in stereo now instead of just left? I'm not sure if anybody's still in chat. Okay, there we go. So we're just going to run, let me retry the whole pipeline just because it's a second job. All right, there we go. Let's see if we get lucky here the fourth time. Okay, it didn't fail immediately, and then I got signed out. Okay, hang on. Nope. Still. Service network not found. You know, I should have deleted that, shouldn't I? Because last time it took so long. Let's just check the name that it has here. I'm wondering about this because the service network comes from the other account. 5551. What's the error? Yeah, we have the wrong account. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna change. Let me delete the stack. Okay. And then if we go back here, what I did was see here, I'm just pulling in the local account, like where we're deploying this. So I'm going to change this, and we're going to say service provider account ID. And let's stat it here, service provider account ID. Right, and then we got to pass that in here too. Service provider. And that is our demo account, which I will grab the ID off of. Should end in 5551. So we can dump that here. And then we'll just add another line. All right. Okay, well, didn't fail. That's good. That's worth something, right? That's got to be a little better. But it didn't create it either, so yeah. We shall see what happens here, whether this actually works or not. You know, I'm trying to remember. My recollection is this did actually take a bit of time. So there it's pending. Security groups or subnets, security groups. There's the association. Okay. So that's good. It looks like it's going. Let's see what happens. The interesting thing is I'm going to have to look at why that association worked, because I we couldn't get that to work earlier on when I first started using this. So I'm not sure if I just stumbled across that now out of sheer luck or I'm misunderstanding something. Okay, so there's the endpoint. Now, in theory, what should happen here is from our little test instance, we should be able to go through this endpoint to the Lambda function. Now, this is another trick or thing that I found challenging. This, if you go to your endpoint service, or sorry, Lattice services, okay? Man, there's a lot of weird things happening here. The service network, okay? Here. You've got now a service association. There it is. Okay. We've got no resource configs. It's associated with the VPC in the other account. And if we go under endpoints, we should have our service. See this? This is our service network endpoint. So it's associated to this service. When I first worked on this, there was one section. See this associations? What I need is you get a different DNS name because we're going through a VPC endpoint. And the documentation says that, but I could not find this. So I was on the phone with support, back and forth, and finally, I noticed on this screen here, if you're in your VPC endpoint, you select the service network endpoint, and then associations, you'll notice that you can scroll, okay? And you can scroll quite a ways. There's a lot of stuff here. It's too bad they didn't do this. What is that? Vertically rather than horizontally, but once I found it, we're good. See this DNS name? This is the DNS name associated with our VPC endpoint, and I want to run that traffic. I want to basically send the request through the VPC endpoint to the service. So we're going to copy that. We're going to make sure we're in the right account. We're going to open up EC2. We're going to go here to our consumer test instance. And we're going to run a curl command like we did before. And hopefully this works. Okay, so that's our VPC endpoint. There we go. Okay, so what just happened there is, if we go back to our diagram, this is what we have. Okay, so we've got our service network in our provider account. We shared that through the Resource Access Manager to our consumer account. And then we associated this service network with this VPC through a service network interface endpoint. And from this EC2 instance, the traffic is now able to go like that. And then obviously the return. Okay. We fixed our error earlier on. To be honest, I'm not quite sure how that was fixed, but it's gone. So we've got this set up now. We've got a service network defined in our provider account that's accessible from a VPC in that provider account, but it's also accessible from a VPC in another account. And we did that through an interface endpoint. So there you have it. Mission accomplished. That's VPC Lattice with CloudFormation. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. I think we're going to call it a day here, and we'll be back next week with something else AWS CloudFormation related. So thanks for tuning in. See you next week.